Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Sports. And the news we have been waiting for the entire week is finally here. Rassie Erasmus has officially named his Springbok 23 to face France on Saturday. There is so much to pick apart. Siya will make his 100th appearance as a Springbok on Saturday when he leads the side out in what is a very experienced side. We wondered whether they might go to a more youthful side and see how they cope. They've resisted the change, and in Rassie Erasmus saying that they're treating this French and Irish game like World Cup playoffs, this gives you a very good indication of the type of team that we currently back in that kind of scenario. No Handré Pollard is a big headline. No Kwagga Smith on the bench as well, in what still remains to be looking like a 6-2 split, despite there being three backline players. Andre Estes included on the bench, but in the number 21 jersey, which sort of indicates that he is still covering flank. Grant Williams, Moy Liebach on the bench. Sasha Famigomazulu will start. Lourdes Diaga has been retained in the starting lineup, which sees Eben Etzebeth make a comeback. Bowen Venter will get the nod with no oxen chair. And the big injury news as well is Damian Willemse is fit and will start at full back. Before we get into it, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Right, so this is, let me just move this. I don't know how that's, this is the side. And a couple of picks I didn't expect and a couple of picks I did expect. In terms of the 1 through to 15, pretty close to what we sort of expected. Our big sort of question marks was the lock pairing, Ruan Okia versus Lourdes Diaga. They've gone with Lourdes Diaga. And Bowen Venter versus Thomas Toyet Lucid versus Gerard Steenekamp. Well, they've gone with Bowen Venter in the number 1 jersey, a straight swap for the injured oxen chair. Malcolm Marx, Thomas Toy, that's kind of, I mean, the oxen chair, Malcolm Marx, Thomas Toy has been our regular sort of starting front row so far this season. So not a big surprise, and very much keeping that Bulls front row as our replacement front row, given the fact that they know each other, they understand how they play, and that's kind of the impact we're looking for in the second half. It's the experience, isn't it, of Eben Etzebeth and Lourdes Diaga, who I think, in terms of Lourdes Diaga, played himself into this game with his performance last week. I reckon that it was a bit of a toying cost between Ruan Okia and Lourdes Diaga. I think that they looked at the fact that it's going to be a big pack up front, you know, with Emmanuel Mierfou starting for France, and said we probably need the physicality of Lourdes Diaga. The back three of Siya, Peter Steph, the Toy, and Jasper Wiese was always going to be the back three, wasn't it? Similarly, who I think it was always going to be Kobus Reinach and Sasha Famigomazulu. You've got to reward the form that they have shown whilst playing with each other. Kurt Lawrence, Cheslin Colby, Damian Willemse. We're back to our World Cup back three. It is our strongest back three, I think. Ethan Hooker will feel aggrieved to a certain degree, given the fact that he has been so good when he has been given an opportunity. But you know, it's just such an embarrassment of riches when you think that you'd be leaving out a Kirk Lawrence or an Ethan Hooker to accommodate him. And then Damon Delende, Jason Creel, a very experienced, the most experienced centre pairing for the Boks. Probably one of the most experienced centre pairings ever, to be honest. Must be up there in the top 5. They will start. No Kane Moody in the 23. Then off the bench, I think we kind of thought that we might see a 6-2 or potentially 5-3 with Andre Estes, which kind of is the case. For me, very, very interesting call not to have Kwagga Smith. There's no real breakdown threat coming on in that second half. Maybe my only, I wouldn't say gripe, but worry about the bench. So it is Johan Grabelaar, Gerard Steenekamp, Wilkolo, Arges Neyman, Ruan Okia, back to the 2 locks, which I wondered about. I actually thought when I did my prediction that I would go with a 6-2 split, go with Arges Neyman, Lourdes Diaga off the bench, and Kwagga Smith. They've gone with Andre Estes in the number 21 jersey, so they're still backing him as flank. Ahead of Kwagga Smith is quite an interesting call. And then Grant Williams and Moy Liebach. So no Handré Pollard is huge. It really is. It just shows you that they have got full faith in Sasha and in Moy Liebach right now. With the way we want to play, with the way they are playing, they are getting the backing. And I'm here for it, to be perfectly honest. And you feel for Handré Pollard because it's not like he's done anything specifically wrong. But we're talking about horses for courses. And the way we're playing at the moment, the way we want to play, just suits the other 2 fly halves. And they're getting that backing to play and go and start. So I'm a big fan of it, to be perfectly honest. I really liked the entire 23. I think save, I would have Kwagga Smith ahead of Andre Estes. And but that's probably about the only real change I would make. So in terms of what Rassie has had to say, he said, we always plan to make a few changes for this match and we'll continue to rotate the players throughout the tour so we can give as many players a chance while at the same time trying to achieve our objectives on the field. This, however, is the team we feel is best suited to what we expect from France and the way we would like to play this weekend. I think that second part is probably more important, the way we would like to play. Many of them have also faced France in 2022 and 2023, so they know what to expect from the host and have also had a taste of what it is to play in front of their passionate home crowd. Speaking about Siya Kolisi, he said that this is a huge milestone for Siya, and we are all delighted for him. He is a level-headed player, and although this will be a big occasion for him and a match that we would like to make special for him, he is fully focused on the task at hand, so he won't allow that to overshadow what he must do on the field. Then speaking about France, he said France have a quality team all around with good forwards and backs, and they are a side that plays for the full 80 minutes. They also have a fanatical home crowd behind them. The Springboks would know better than most, which will inspire them immensely. So we are fully aware of the magnitude of this match, and we know what we have to do on the field. A couple of some of the stats. In terms of our record against France, we have played 46. Excuse me. 128, last 12, drawn 6. We have scored 994 points against them, and we've had 720 points scored against us. In terms of some of the other stats, excuse me. Siya Kolisi, who made his debut in 2013, will reach his 100th test. He will become the 9th Springbok Centurion in history. We had Billy Roo became the 8th in history earlier this year, and this is oh goodness, this is also the 50th test that Rassie Erasmus will lead the side as Springbok head coach, and the win rate currently standing at 73.4%. So that obviously doesn't include the sort of 4-year period where Jacques Inoba was the coach. This is just Rassie's as head coach stats. In terms of some of the stats, for example, or the caps, in the starting lineup, there are 924 caps, 362 in the back line, 562 among the forwards. On the bench, there are further 177. The average caps per player in the back line is 52, the forward 70, while the players on the bench average 22. Right. What do we think? Let me know down in the comments below. And I'm just going to try and swallow this cough. Give me 2 seconds. Right, let's hope that's the end of that. It's the weather. It's the stress. It's the hype. It's the whole thing. But let's get into this live, shall we, people? Because there's a lot of comments coming in. And it's honestly, as you're coughing up all the hate, yeah, it's I'm seeing quite a lot of interesting comments being made at the moment. So let's get into the poll, shall we? I'm going to ask the poll, do you like the team? Simple yes or no. That's what I want to ask. Do you like the team? What are your thoughts? What would you change? That's always my big thing. And you guys, if you've been watching this, fairly recently, you know that's my big challenge to you. If you don't like the team, tell me what you don't like. Don't just come here and say, oh, I don't like it. What would you change? What are the selections that you're worried about? Where are those selections coming in? And what would you do instead? Last week, we had over 90% of people backing the team itself. So it's going to be interesting to sort of see what that is now in relation to this team, because I think that it's going to be slightly less, because it's a bit more controversial, isn't it? And it's going to be, I think, I don't actually have that many issues, to be honest. There's one selection which maybe I'm very comments don't like, and I'm happy to be proven wrong about that. The only selection I'm not a fan of is that Kwagga Smith out, Andre Estes, and I just think at the moment we don't have the fetcher in the second half. If Malcolm Mark's coming off the bench, for example, maybe I'd feel a bit more happy with it, for example. But I think that might be the only place where we could be a little bit short in the second half. And I think it's bold. It's a bold call. Whether it'll pay off, we'll only see on Saturday, won't we? But I think that it's a team that definitely has enough to beat the French, and I think that's probably the main thing. This is a strong box side, without a doubt. It's a strong box side. It's got everything it needs to beat the French. I think it's got a lot of experience. I think you could potentially have looked at other options, for example. But I also think that this very much shows you where we are as a squad, and I think that we are sticking to what we believe in, and I really like the fact that's a thing. We are very much sticking to kind of what our plan has been the entire season, and what our newly found philosophy is, and what the DNA currently is of this box side. Because we've got to be able to, you can't just decide, right, we're going to play like this, and then as soon as we get to big games, move away from it, and then all of a sudden we have a disjointed performance because we go into a different style of play that we haven't been playing, and then you're going to sit there and say, we've got to try and commit to the way we want to play, and then stick to it even in the big games. And this is probably the second biggest game we've played this year. So I'm a big fan of the fact that we've stuck with exactly that we've stuck with our guns, and we're very much backing what we've been backing throughout the year. Some people might not like it, and I obviously think that his injuries have played a part. For me, if Rassie was fit, for example, would he have started? Obviously, if Oxenchair was fit, he would have started. But I think that we've got more or less the strongest we can probably get. But let's go into some of the comments, shall we? And Arnie was one of our members. By the way, please, if you'd like to become a member, please do consider joining the members club. It is a small nominal fee, and we're trying to get up to 2 members every day. I did get up to 3 members every day, actually, on our road to getting to 100 members for the year. So, and if you'd like to feature in that Rassie Erasmus coaches box, then go and donate. It's in a super chat and you'll feature over there. Carl going with the surprise 2 locks on the bench, talking about the 5.5, 2.5 splits. And Ben Horton was saying, no Kwak on the bench is a massive mistake, saying he's not a Bone fan. Well, I think this is the big test, isn't it, for Bone Venter? This is it. Can he do the job? We'll find out on Saturday. Although I suppose to a certain degree, the France front row is not experienced. And Bone Venter's actually got more caps than either of the props with his, 3 caps? I think he's got 5 caps. So he's actually got more caps than the 2 French props combined. So it's not that big in terms of we're throwing into the wolves. It is going to be a big test for him, though. Arnie says, out of all respect, this team is picked on strength and mobility. There are big men on the bench. Well, that I think is the big thing, isn't it? We've gone with a large 6-2 split with the license to be able to play Andre Esterhuizen at centre. So there's no Quacker Smith, who's obviously the smallest forward we have. Instead, we've got Andre Esterhuizen, Andre the Giant. So, and that's probably pretty deliberate with regards to the way we want to play, and we want to try and outmuscle them and bring that physicality. I do think we're going to miss him, though. I really do think we are going to miss him. That jackal over the ball, for example. I think that's going to be a big loss for the box. So you're going to have to sacrifice somewhere. So Matthews, one of our members, says, me and a couple of mates were talking last week about the difference between Kwaka and Andre. And at the moment, Andre gives us more as that utility player in the 21 jersey. Man saying, why is Eben still there? It's a big shout to say, why is he still there? Kitson Nichols says, I like going with 4 locks, but man, no Kwaka feels wrong. It does, doesn't it? It does feel wrong. Hungry Lion says, Bone is some F, but not starting money to make the heavy bench pack tired. No Kenny Mooney, Ethan Hooker. It's such an underwhelming team. No Kwak and Asanate. Cuck selection, trustworthy though. Yeah, I wouldn't call it underwhelming, to be honest. I don't think, of all the things that I'd probably describe that team, I don't think I'd say underwhelming. There are absolute world-class players in this side. Yes, maybe there's not, your young prodigies like Ethan Hooker or Kane Mooney and the likes of that, but this is tried and tested experience, know the job. And I think here's my early shot. I think we might see Ethan Hooker and we might see Kane Moody against Ireland. And because I think that could be, and probably Andre Pollard as well, where I think he expects it to be a bit wetter, for example. But I think that this is such an important game to get 2-0, to go 2-0, probably beat Italy next week, go into that Ireland game 3-0, and then that's the big one, isn't it? Some of the other comments over here as Eugene says, Andre's on the bench to counter their heavy forwards and show that he really can make gains around the ruck. Just love this team. I mean, you got to feel for the likes of like a Ben Jason Dixon, don't you? You know, when you think that he's picked as a flank and you're thinking, I'm a big physical flank, I'm going to go out and pose myself. And then they go, cool, Andre, just come here from center. And he's getting back before him to do a flank's job. And I think, you know, you're very right on what you're saying in terms of he's shown that he can get those gains, not just at inside center, but in and around the ruck and the likes of that. So he's shown that he can do the job. And all of a sudden he's getting the nod ahead of one of the, probably the best impact player in the world in the form of Kwagga Smith. So it's a big call, bold call. But I think it's brave. It's brave. Tom is saying, are you okay? No, I am okay. Okay. I think just something went down the wrong pipe. So I just had to sort that out, but we're all good. We're all good. K3A says, 2 wrong on my prediction. Went with Ruin at 5 and Crobbies at 2. After the 2022 loss, Rassie said he wanted experience off the bench to close out. So I thought Marks would be at 16. In fairness, I think if it wasn't for that sort of Bulls combo, and I think if it was a Bongi Manambi in the squad, I think they would be potentially looking at swapping that up. I think having that full Bulls, pack just, and also you look at combinations, Malcolm Marks to Luat Diaga in the lineout. Then in the second half, it'll be Jan Krobela to Ruan Alkia in the lineout. So again, those sort of combinations, I think, also probably play quite a big role. Indebeko says, no Kwagga is risky, his impact is immense. Carl says, I assume probably be given a go against Ireland, or maybe we wouldn't bet that. Big shout out to Egon Brandy, who's sending the super chat saying, I think Willemse is a great 12 with a dynamic kicking option on attack and strong under the high ball. Maybe continue with Colby 15 experiment with hooker building experience. I really, really hope that we see Damien at 12 during this thing, and I'm happy to give that Colby experiment once again. For example, next weekend, I'd love to see Colby go back to 15, go to Damien at 12, and let's see if we can continue building that type of experience. In this particular game, though, I can very much understand going Damien Willemse at 15. It's the tried and tested backline. And then they've gone and thrown in everyone in that backline was at the 2023 World Cup except for Sasha. The only players that haven't been to a World Cup in this starting 15 is Sasha and Bowen Fenter. Thomas Toy went to in 2019. So it's experience on experience on experience. And I'm really hoping that, we saw that graphic that Rassie posted of the French side with all the different caps, age, weight. And I really hope he ends up posting the South African version, which he actually had space for, and we can kind of see exactly what the matchups are. But shout out for sending the super chat. Really appreciate it. So you can see exactly how it works there, people. You send a little hot take. It goes into the Rassie's coaching corner box, and your name does feature. So shout out to that. And if you'd like to become a member, as I said, would really like to get those 2 members. Actually, I'd like to get 4 members in the stream. It's a team announcement stream, so surely we can get 4 or 5 members. And a big shout out to everybody. Let me know how you did on my picks, and the scoring should be updated very, very soon. And then you can go and check exactly what your prediction was and where you got it right. I think I got 2 wrong. Is my I actually think it might be 1 wrong. So I'd love to go and check exactly what my prediction was, and what my points are, because I think I did okay. But I want to see exactly what I got. So that'll be scored very, very shortly. And there we go. I've got 14. What did I get wrong? I went with Lurd. I got 28. 28 points. I got 1 wrong. How wild is that? 14 correct players, 14 correct positions. I went Bruno K instead of Luat Diaga. Stevie P dusting the predictions once again. You guys are in my in the distance behind there. He stays top of the Forever Sports team predictor league. Let's look at that leaderboard. We're gonna look at it in a bit because that leaderboard is looking filthy with Stevie P at the top with 46 points. I mean, a couple people right behind me, but I'm leading the way. So you just listen to me more, people. You'd be well more informed about what we're gonna pick because evidently me and Rassie are. We're going to back to the comments and welcome Egon Brand. You also joined the Forever Sports Members Club. Appreciate all the support. Really do. Let's go to the comments over there. Sida Killer says, good team selection and it is capable to do the job. We must complain about Kwaka's absent. Every team member has its role to play. Springboks, not everyone will be happy. And Rassie, I trust. You have to trust, don't you? Armin says, Visa played 80 minutes this season. Good question, actually. Actually not entirely sure. Patrick says, excited about this team. Go Boca, SA, greetings team from Algeria. And Varus says, the bench hasn't picked to neutralize the French bomb squad. That's the thing, isn't it? Bomb squad versus bomb squad. And very interesting to sort of see if we do manage to, inverted commas, defuse that bomb squad. Jacques says, guys, this team is solid. If Willemse can have a decent game, we are looking at a few tries by the Power Rangers on the edges. Hopefully, anyway, and I haven't got a team prediction score now. I need to actually process the teams and then throw it out. Meanwhile, by the way, your guys' team, the FS community, is sitting in 6th place on the Forever Sports Team Predictor, so not bad. I mean, not Steven first, but not bad. A lot of people are talking about why they don't think that why Kwaka has been left out. Hungry Lion says, Visa can't go for 80 minutes. No, what is Rassie thinking? Jasper Visa, I think it was 2 seasons ago, played more minutes in the English Premiership than any other player. So if there's one thing he can do, it's play a full 80. He can. I don't know if he's actually done it this year in terms of for the box as of yet. I can go and check. He did. He played a full 80 against New Zealand. Well, there we go. And a full player 80 against Argentina as well. So his minutes for the box have gone 54 minutes, 20, 80, 72, 80. So he's virtually played 380 minutes. So yeah, he's going to be perfectly fine as far as I'm concerned. Not worried about him in the slightest not being able to play 80 minutes. He's a player that plays a lot of rugby. Vardy says, I got Bowen and Lurt wrong in my picks. You know, same with Lurt. I backed the Ruan Nokia shout. So... Tubby says, actually, if you look at the age and experience versus France, this team should dominate France. Hope no tired legs, though. Crow Rugby says, TP and the Rassie the GOATs. I mean, there we go. Name a more iconic duo. Name a more iconic duo. Nervous Jack says, Sasha is great, but needs to play with the team in this game. And look, listen, if Sasha goes and scores 3 tries, he can do whatever the bloody hell he wants. As long as he does. Modine says, where's Pollard? It's sad they don't include him. Well, somebody said, is this the end of Pollard? And there's definitely a certain amount of that, not necessarily being the end of Pollard, but I think we are seeing a shift, a significant shift towards backing Money and backing Sasha going forward. I think traditionally we would have seen Pollard parachute into this game. Now we're saying, you know what, these two are number 1 and 2. And for the first time in his career, Pollard's down a 3rd choice. Now, knowing Andre Pollard, the character is the way he plays his rugby. He'll be frustrated not playing 100%. Every player wants to play. But I'm sure right now he is he is guiding them. He's working on the kicking, for example. He'll be a big personality in the change room. But I love the fact that they are backing Money Block. I really do love the fact that, I mean, obviously Sasha getting the backing at 10 is huge. But there's 2 things here. First of all, they're backing Sasha wholeheartedly, and they're backing Money wholeheartedly because they haven't gone with Pollard on the bench as in case of emergency, break glass, put him on if things are going badly, and we can kind of go back to the way we sort of play traditionally, set piece, knock the points, for example. So I think that he is still got a role to play. There's no doubt about it. But the way we're trying to play favors the other two, and they've got to get backed. They've got to be backed. You can't say, oh no, we really back you. No, trust me, we've got lots of trust in you. And then as soon as the going gets tough, or you go into a tough game, take them out and then say, oh, but we just want to you've got to trust them in all the different circumstances. And this is another opportunity for them to give those guys a chance and to give them the keys. Jacques says, okay, each to his own. I'm not going to say you're wrong, but I disagree with you. Etzebeth has slumped in form, and yes, the Lions haven't been great, but I still think he contributes a ton. I think we're talking about somebody, the man was asking, what is your call Etzebeth, Stevie? I'm really curious, why should he be there? I still think he's our best number 4 lock. I don't think, from a work rate perspective, physicality perspective, the way he chases down long balls, for example, the number 4 jumper, that enforcer role, I still don't think we have anybody that does the role he does. I don't think you get the same impact if Lewis starts at 4, for example, or if Arke starts at 4, or if Jean Klein starts at 4. I still think that he is still our best number 4. Is he playing at the level he was maybe 2 years ago? Maybe not. But I think also at times we judge people based on the best they've ever been, and at times there are certain players, even if they're not at their best, they are still better than the other options. They are still better, or still going to contribute more than what the other options we've got. And that's where I am with Eben, for example. I think that we've got a situation where we've got other locks, but I still don't think that anyone's playing or having the impact that Evans has when they've gone with those options. So yeah, I've got no issue with him starting whatsoever. I've got full faith in him, and I think that games like this, for example, really sort of give us an opportunity to see whether he is still good enough, whether he can, and he's a big game player. So we talk about games where we got to try and get information, and we spoke about last week, in terms of which players are under pressure, inverted commas, which players have to deliver, which players are maybe not playing their best performances so far this year. And last week we spoke about the fact that Franco Moster had a point to prove, Luat Diaga had a slight point to prove, I think Jesse Creel had a point to prove. I think all of those 3 players stepped up last weekend, had good games, and kind of reminded them. So I think Ian will do the same thing. I mean, Mand has got obviously some massive vendetta out against him, saying he adds nothing at all, like 0 impact. I mean, to call that against Evan Etzebeth is a pretty large shout, to be honest. But hey, everyone's got an opinion, and yeah, we'll see what happens on. I can tell you right now, he contests for that high ball, for example, when he chases links better than any other lock we've got. To doubt the most capped Springbok Centurion of all time and to say he adds 0 impact, nothing at all, is a wild shot. It's a brave shot. But let's see how it goes on Saturday, shall we? And then we can come back to it. Kenneth says, I think there is a misconception that Evan is not up to form because our other locks have raised the bar, and not that Evan is not good enough. The other locks are just looking good. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to say about Ronak here. The way he's played, and look at how how Luat Diaga has had to really be at. I mean, I've seen Luat Diaga put in some massive performances this year to try and ward off the Ruan Nokia charge, inverted commas, that we are seeing, because he is putting in some huge performances. And I think that, even Rassie Erasmus for the first couple of games this season didn't really seem to have that impact off the bench. And, I think that the game is playing, and also the way we play is starting to change as well. So, I mean, I don't think it's ever a bad decision to have a 135 cap Bok in your team. Is he the best option? Let's see on Saturday how he goes, and we can compare it. How does he do versus when Rassie Erasmus comes on? Carl says, I don't think Pollard is third choice. I think Sashwan Gomezula is first choice, and then between Mane and Pollard will be picked depending on what we want to do to end our games. Yeah, I think to a certain degree, but I think that at the moment, I mean, if there's ever a game to try and kind of go quite conservative towards the end, not get penalties, be quite tight, then I think that this could very well be one of those situations. Also, by the way, I'm just hearing that coming from the press conference that Kwaka's actually got a niggle. So there we go. So that sort of explains that. So after all that conversation about where Kwaka Smith is, well, that explains it. So he's actually carrying a niggle, which makes sense. Which makes sense because that was my big question mark in the entire side. So then I officially have no issues with the team whatsoever then, really, because that was my only worry. And now I've just heard coming from the presser, which we will have hopefully very soon up on the channel. We do have a journalist there that he has been declared injured. So there we go. And Andrew says, Box 32, France 12. We're going to run them off the park just like Wellington. Man is also very happy for Sia. He really, really deserves this. Yeah, I mean, massive to become the ninth Springbok Centurion ever. Kid Cynical says Stennekamp and Lowe are going to flip and cook in that second half. La Bomb Squad or not. Well, there we go. I'm excited for that. To see the impacts that all the different players have. You know, our Bomb Squad versus their Bomb Squad. And I think, you know, for example, somebody that I think is going to be under the microscope will obviously be Andre Estes. And what kind of impact can he have? Can he have the sort of impact that a Kwaka Smith can have? He's not going to obviously have the only he's obviously not going to have the jackling ability and the breakdown level, but he obviously brings something a bit different in the physicality perspective. So there's a lot to be said about that selection and not going with Marco van Staden on the bench or Ben Jason Dixon on the bench, or not just going with a 5-3 split and having Manie Bach and Hodge Pollard on the bench, for example. Carl says, yeah, but this match doesn't have a massive consequence if we lose. It's only learning that can be taken from this match, win or lose, whereas if it was a World Cup, if we lose, we are out. But I think, to be fair, they are trying to treat this as much as a playoff as possible. And I think that's very deliberate. You know, you want to try and put these players in the cauldron and say, right, guys, if this is a semi-final, can you guys get the job done? You know, and that'll be the gauntlet that's been thrown at them, is to rise to the occasion and play as if it's a playoff game, because we will never know if you guys are good enough in those situations, obviously, until we get them. We only play a playoff game once every 4 years. Yes, obviously you'll play against, you know, rugby championship games where if you lose, you're out, it comes a virtual skill final, etc., etc. But we still don't play in a true playoff game until World Cups. So you've got to try and treat these games as auditions and as simulations, I suppose, probably the best word about that. Butler says, I will start Eben on the bench from now on. You speak him up all you like, but he's no longer feared or physical presence anymore. Arkia should be a starter now, and I believe we're on with him. I think somebody made a good point, and he spoke about the fact that, you know, who do the foreign commentators and foreign fans fear? And they do still fear Eben Etzebeth. So, again, let's see how he goes on Saturday. I don't think it's ever a bad shot having him in a side. I don't think. And I mean, if there's somebody who's gotten enough credit to be given the benefit of the doubt, it's probably our most capped Springbok ever, isn't it? I mean, even Arkia Snema, I don't think had a particularly good start to the season. Took him a while before he was playing at a good level. It's probably only towards the end of the Rugby Championship that we actually saw a version of Arkia Snema that was like, oh wow, here he is. I mean, the first month I think it was Springbok Rugby, I think he was pretty average. And players go through those sort of slumps and stuff like that. Rory says, Pollard not being on the bench is a concern, but again, this is not the World Cup. Annette was saying she's got the box by 9. Carl says, that's my point. Rise to the equation for the mock-up playoff game. Can't have that if Pollard on the team as safety net. So yeah, good point. It's a good point. But that's why I like the fact that they've resisted that temptation. That they've not gone, oh, well, we'll just have Pollard. Because also, and I suppose it's a bit of a double-edged sword if you're 100 Pollard, because if things go badly and we lose, you can sit there and say, well, we know if that was a World Cup playoff game, we'd parachute in Andre, and you know, he could probably see the game off. However, if we go and win, and let's say the second half we're down, I mean, for example, I remember when Manie Bach came on for that New Zealand test and Wellington, we were actually losing. So, and he was a big part of the turnaround, and then we went on to go and absolutely decimate them. Similarly, for example, if he comes on this weekend and we're losing, or even if we're just above and we go out to win the game or smash them or come back to win, then all of a sudden you take a step back saying, well, there we go. We've got 2 flower halves that we know can get a job done. And Madiba can come off the bench and change the game and win us a game. And I think the combinations, this for me as well, I want to talk about combinations because I think that's a massive part about what we are doing at the moment. Look at the reserve front row. That's your Bulls front row. That's a combination. Kobus Ryan Sasha become a combination. Grant and Monty have become a combination. So it's not to say that Monty can't start with Kobus. Or Grant can't play with Sasha. But we talk about combinations being so important. And that's those two combinations have not been split up the last 4 tests. We continue to go to those combinations. And I think that's very significant, to be perfectly honest. I think that we are very much working in duos and trios and kind of saying, okay, well, this player is injured, so therefore we might have to break it up. But in general, we look at the Andre Estes and Kane and Moody combination. We're seeing the Kobus Sasha, Marty Grant. Maybe it's a Morne van den Berg Andre Pollard combination. And maybe we'll see that next week against Italy. I think Morne van den Berg will probably start next weekend. So I think that's also a big part of it. It's the fact that we are looking at combinations. Some random guy says, seems like Andre is becoming an assistant coach, no longer playing. And Evan says, do we see a pattern with a 9-10 pair? 100%. Hoster Webb and Prince says, where's Kwaka? There must be a first time Kwaka's not part of the bomb squad. Yeah, so he is injured. We did manage to confirm that. So we've got that coming out of the press conference that he has picked up a niggle and is not available. Honest says Pollard will be the Harry Potter card clutch king. And Trendy Draco says Rassie can reshuffle them back significantly with SFM 15, Damien 12, Marnie 10, full out attack. At Kenneth says, I don't think we would pick Pollard if this was a World Cup game. The style of rugby we are playing at the moment is more suited to Sasha and Marty's play style. Polly has some catching up to do. I think that's also, those are all the different factors. I would love to I'd love to know if we played in the World Cup final tomorrow, would we see Pollard? Would we see the same game plan? Are we confident enough in the way we play that we are happy to completely, inverted commas, abandon the traditional 10-man rugby approach or, the more brutal approach, even in our backline, with, far more first phase carries, for example, and going to the boot far more often instead of just, instead of going to the boot to find an initial, bit of space and then moving to play, being a bit more expansive, the likes of that, and looking at the offload game that we're playing as well, keeping the ball alive often and going quite wide. Right now, I'm not entirely sure if we would play that style of rugby in the final. It's obviously worked a couple of times this year to very good effect. You look at the Australian game, you look at the Argentina games. We've put 40 plus points on a lot of teams. We also have that obviously the Australia game, which was a bit of a disaster. So it's not been foolproof, but we definitely feel like the way we're going there, we can kind of back it. And if you go and play the Tony Ball style on Saturday and win, then that's a huge feather in the cap of the entire transformation we've had as a team. Hendrik says, do you think we saw the last of the Hendrickson brothers? I think that Jordan, you go to the Sharks, I don't know what happens to you. I think Jordan probably at this stage has probably a better chance getting to the side than Jaden does. Jaden has to really pick up his socks because he's just not playing well at all. They're so young. I think Jordan's 23 years old, so maybe 24. So I think it'll be premature to say we won't see him guys 24, but they really have to step up their game. Because we thought that they were going to be Springboks for a while, especially Jaden. He's a World Cup winner. And I don't know what, the second time we've seen a young scrum off, go to the World Cup, and then completely drop off out of the squad. We saw it with Herschel Yankees from 2019. And then all of a sudden, you look at him now, we haven't seen him in box setup for years. Kumquat says, I don't like Lured over Nokia and Phil. We need a hooker in the team. And Carl said, I also love to see Pollard with this exact team because I don't think we've seen Pollard with this team, especially without Jasper at 8. But that's also the next thing, isn't it? When we play Pollard, do we then say to him, right, come, show us. Show us you can play the inverted commas, the Tony ball. Show us you can put these players into space. How much is he working with Tony Brown? Because that's what Tony Brown says, is he can't wait to work with Andre. It's not just a case of, working with him about becoming attacking, but how does he how does he mold Pollard into a fly half that can play in the system? How does he get that right? How does he find the best out of Pollard in the system? And that means playing to his strengths, but also how does he add more stuff to Pollard's game? Because you've got to be able to adapt to the best players in the world, and Pollard's got a lot of skills in there. I think he needs to work on his passing, in terms of on the run. I think on playing very flat, Marley-Bok's got the best pass in that box aside. I mean, I've not seen. I don't know if there's not too many people in World Rugby that can throw that sort of lofted pass out so far wide whilst they're running at full pace and so accurately. Then they might have. It got him into trouble against Australia, and I think it was a phenomenal read by Joseph Akusta-Suali'i. But he's got the ability, and he can pass right, left, can kick both right, left. So you talk about skill sets now, just being on a different level at the moment, and that's where I think Pollard's probably having to work on. For example, Pollard doesn't need to have another kicker goal probably in his life, because that's the banker. He's kicking for up and unders, tactical kicking as well. His defense, we don't have to worry, but he now needs to work on his distribution and his game awareness and his sort of tactical play to suit the kind of game plan that we have. Much like Marley-Bok, I think, had to probably work on his decision making, and he's obviously had to work his goal kicking is a big work on, and his decision making was a big work on. When to throw that pass, when not to throw that pass, and I think that was the big difference when we saw him play against New Zealand. You could even sort of see him saying, I want to throw this pass, but it's not quite on. Therefore, I'm going to be safer and rather take it into contact or play a safe option. And that in itself is maturity of understanding we're playing an attacking brand of rugby. My job is to put players into space. My job is to attack space and to try and create tries. But if it's not on, don't play it and don't force it. So that is where his work-ons are. Sasha, for example, at the moment, carrying with ball in hand, he's playing brilliant rugby. I think he probably needs to work a little bit on his tactical kicking game. And then I think decision-making is a big work on. But decision-making as well is an experience thing. So he's played maybe 10 caps. Where's this team announcement gone? Sasha has played 16 caps. And where Marley-Bok, for example, has played 35 caps. But Marley-Bok's played rugby for over 10 years at a URC level. And that's where I think we've got to have, we're going to see the progression from Sasha in the next year or two, decision making. And that just comes with experience. That comes with being in different scenarios where you make the wrong decision and you go, shit, I shouldn't have done that. You make the right decisions and you go, I should have done that. Because you can't transfer that knowledge. Andre Pollard we can't just download everything on Andre Pollard's head and plug it into Sasha. If we could, we'd probably have the best player of all time. Just in terms of so much experience going into a young prodigy that has the skill set. But it's about getting the experience into them, putting them into scenarios so that they can understand how to navigate that situation, how to cope with those sort of situations as well. So there's a lot to speak about, all the different reasons we've got so many different combos and lots of different discussions. So Henk Roos says it's a bit concerning, our students, that we don't have an out-and-out reserve loose forward, extra lock, and center as loose forward. I think your saving grace there is Ruan Lokia, can play at 7. There might have probably been a temptation to go with Franco Moster to a certain degree because he obviously covers 7 more naturally than Ruan Lokia does, but he can play at 7. So just as, for example, PSF Toy can go back to lock, which is probably why, again, a safer option could have been a Ben Jason Dixon on the bench or Malcolm van Staden on the bench. But I think they're basically saying that Andre Esterhuizen will likely replace Sia, and you'll probably have PSF the Toy and Jasper Fieser going the full distance. If PSF the Toy has to come off, and Andre Esterhuizen's already on, then Ruan Lokia will shift to the flank. And that would be my guess. And in this situation, Carl says, I love this competition between players, to be honest. It will just bring out the best in everybody. I love it. There isn't almost a guaranteed starter in a lot of positions in the team. I agree. I mean, I think if we look at guaranteed starters in this side, so World Cup final tomorrow, people that you are definitely going to start: Malcolm Marx, the back row, Damien Willemse, I still think ahead of Apple Fassi, Ches and Colby. So I think there's maybe 6. I still think there would be a debate. Damien Delendi, Andre Esse. Probably Damien Delendi, so I'd maybe extend it to 7. I don't think that Jesse Kriel would necessarily be a nailed down starter. I think there would still be a conversation about Kane and Moody. I think there'll still be a conversation. Kurt Lawrence, Ethan Hooker. World Cup final, I think there'll still be a conversation between Sasha and Pollard. There's probably still be a combination, Kubis or Grant. But I think those are the only, and then Oxenchair at number 1 would be a nailed on starter at all times. But it's definitely changed a lot from what it was a couple of years ago. And that's what's so exciting about this team. Is that there's so much competition happening at the moment. But we are going to wrap it up there, people. So thank you very much for joining me. Shout out to those who can become members. Please do consider becoming a member if you're watching this retrospectively. Please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel. And we'll be live on Saturday for this game, which is going to be a very exciting one. So make sure you come and join me there. We do have the player profiles over on Forever Box. So go and check that out. And we'll see you guys all